Of all the fights, you've had 50. Who would you say was your toughest opponent?
You got guys that punch hard and hit hard, and you got guys that come out and win a few rounds. But nothing really was tough.
Floyd fired the referee in the middle of the bout. He stops the bout. He's like, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here.
Castillo got robbed.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we have to talk about something that has the boxing world buzzing. Floyd Mayweather, yes, Money Mayweather himself, calling out Terence "Bud" Crawford. And man, let me tell you, Max Kellerman did not hold back. He absolutely went off about this whole situation. And honestly, once you...
Hey, Robinson, how many wins he got? I said he got like over 150 wins. He stopped for a minute. He said, but who got more championship titles? Me or him? I said, hold on, Floyd. He said, answer the question. I said, Floyd, there's more titles now than then. There was just one then. That's no fair. Answer the question. I said, okay, you. Do I not have 28 titles? And I was just like, I don't know. He said, oh, you're supposed to be the expert. But the reason why I said that is because there's minor and major titles. Who else greater than me? I said Henry Armstrong, Roberto Duran. He said, oh my God. He said, you said something about Pacquiao. Yeah, I said, I think you'll beat Pacquiao every day of the week, but I think he had a greater career. He said, you ain't think Pacquiao was on steroids? I said, he didn't fail any tests, Floyd. He said, look at me in my eyes and tell. I can't say, man, he did fail. He said, oh man, you fake. I saw that as a initiation. This is what you about to get. Nobody's greater than Floyd. My thing is, he should feel that way, but you can't expect everybody to feel that you're the greatest, Floyd.
Hear his perspective, you might start looking at this call-out in a completely different way. So let's set the stage. Terence Crawford, the man who just dismantled Errol Spence.
Wild, because like if you look at Floyd's resume, it's much deeper than Crawford's. And Floyd was faster and he had a better defense and all that stuff. But Floyd picked and chose when he fought guys, especially once he left lightweight. He wiped out the junior lights, bring him. Lightweight, he jumps up to Jose Luis Castillo first thing. A lot of people think he lost the first fight, then I didn't, but then he won the rematch. But once he left lightweight, he was careful about when he fought guys. So even though his resume is deeper with names, people remember, yeah, but he didn't want it with certain dudes at certain times. Crawford, we all witnessed, even though the resume is thin in certain ways, he wanted it with everyone the whole time. Oh, yes. That makes a difference to people.
Who did Floyd fight that was on his level when he fought? Only Canelo. That's it. Don't give me that stuff about the other guy that was going to prison. Cotto, all-time great? No. Cotto's all-time Puerto Rican great. You waited till Pacquiao got knocked out by Marquez before you fought him. If you'd have fought him 4 years ago, it'd have been something. Because both of y'all were here. We'd have found out who the best was. He fought Shane Mosley at 38 years old, and it still was a good fight while he left. Shane almost took him out at 38. He fought Oscar De La Hoya at an old age. My point is, you didn't do it the right way. You know that. Who else did you fight besides them biggest, best two names you can pull up? I'm just saying, Floyd never fought nobody that was of his.
Junior, to unify the welterweight division, is at the very top of the sport right now. Pound for pound king in a lot of people's eyes. He's undefeated.
Floyd provided everyone unrealistic expectations. You could win every fight, basically never get hit, and make all the money. it's not going to work like that for the most part for everybody, you know? Like it literally only went that way for one guy.
I love Floyd, but it seems like everybody's afraid to have that to have a 1 or 2 where the O used to be. Ali lost. Sugar Ray lost. Hagler lost. Hearns lost. These guys lost. When did the O become the end-all be-all?
I think Mayweather, you know, and how he made it big to the public. Mm-hmm. Like 47 and tried, 47 have failed, and then it got all the way to 50, and it's like, you know,
break Marciano's record.
Now retired, unblemished. Andre Ward, unblemished. You know, Joe
Calzaghe,
unblemished. You know, and it's like when people look at him, they be like, man, that dude never lost before. You know, people can't say that. You know, a lot of people can't say that.
Versatile. He's got power, and he's got skills. When Crawford fights, it's not just about winning. It's about making elite fighters look ordinary. And that's rare in boxing. Now here comes Floyd Mayweather. A legend, no doubt, 50-0, one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time, and a master of the sport. But he's been retired for years. He's been doing these exhibition fights, YouTubers.
Floyd was fighting everyone right up until the point where he started to make money. But as much credit as you get for making, the primacy of business, for making business your priority, well, that comes with trade-offs. Because when you make business decisions constantly, sometimes your athletic achievements won't be regarded in the same way as if you made athletic achievements your priority. That said, Mayweather has accomplished a tremendous amount athletically. But the 3 fighters he didn't fight, Tonio Margarito, Manny Pacquiao, when he was obliterating De La Hoya, Hatton, and Cotto, and Shane Mosley when he still had something left. And while he will wind up fighting Pacquiao and Mosley, it'll both be, at the right time for Floyd. That said, what about at the right time for Floyd? He's also ancient. A fighter approaching 40, fighting at the level Mayweather is fighting, is unheard of. Mayweather, until recent times, would be considered one of the greatest older fighters that would be the whole story. Oh my God, can you believe how old Mayweather is? So it's a little bit unfair to Floyd. Say, well, you're picking these guys at the right time. Floyd is old.
MMA guys, Japanese kickboxers, nothing serious in terms of legacy. Just money grabs, right? That's fine. He earned that right. But when he calls out Terence Crawford, that hits different. Because we're not talking about Floyd going in the ring with a guy who doesn't box. We're talking about Floyd saying, I'd fight Crawford. And that's where Max Kellerman jumps in. Max basically says this is absurd, and I have to agree. Think about it. Floyd is in his mid-40s. He's been away from true competition for a long time. Meanwhile, Crawford is literally in his prime, fresh off one of the most dominant performances in modern boxing history. The timing of it makes it feel less like a real competitive challenge and more like a way for Floyd to grab headlines again. And Max calls that out. He goes off, saying something along the lines of,
The Pacquiao you're describing, who knocked out Ricky Hatton, who YouTubed Ricky Hatton, turned YouTube into a verb, what he did to Ricky Hatton, and then destroyed Cotto, and before that, and then just the way he beat De La Hoya, even before that,
Well, De La Hoya was old, though.
Sure, but Mayweather fought those guys basically at the same point in their career that Pacquiao did before them. Okay. And the reason that Mayweather-Pacquiao fight was hyped up to the extent that it was is that, boy, Mayweather's this all-time great, and Pacquiao is doing these guys even worse than Floyd is doing them. Everyone wanted to see that fight. That Pacquiao's been gone for a long time. So why don't fighters retire when they...
Floyd, stop. Just stop. You had your time. You're the man. You retired undefeated. You don't need to chase clout by throwing Crawford's name out there. And that's exactly it. Floyd has nothing left to prove. But when he puts Crawford's name in his mouth, it feels like he's either
cheating.
I love it.
That is cheating.
That's a heel turn. You the boss. I love it.
That's a heel turn.
I love it. You do that five.
Now, here's the thing. Roy at his peak, just remember this. If Roy would have retired after the Ruiz fight, he would have replaced Sugar Ray Robinson as the greatest fighter of all time.
I agree.
Right?
I
but
agree.
he didn't, and the rest of that stuff is in there, right? Yeah. So I get it. But Roy at his peak, I think, had a higher peak than anyone on this list.
I agree.
Okay, Manny Pacquiao, we've all said it a million times. I think he is, outside of Sugar Ray Robinson, I have Manny Pacquiao's second greatest pound-for-pound fighter ever. Floyd Mayweather never lost. And did he cherry-pick when and where? Yes. But guys, from 130, 135, he cleaned out 135. He beat the best guy at 130, beat the best guy at 135. Yes, did he pick and choose at 140, 47, and 54? Yeah, but he won all those fights.
That's right.
And he beat a lot of good fighters.
50-0.
And more than that, put Floyd at his best in with anyone through history. You do not know who wins. Floyd Mayweather beat Manny Pacquiao. It's true. Floyd is one of the top 10 greatest pound-for-pound fighters who ever lived. Tough to argue otherwise. But pound for pound, he can't be above Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was a flyweight champion. Not that he turned pro at flyweight. He was good enough as a flyweight to be the lineal champion, the real champion. Now, he didn't win titles in every division. He skipped some of these, but I just want to tell you how flyweight, junior bantam, junior feather, junior light, junior welter, junior middle.
He rolling.
And he laid waste to these divisions. Yeah. He fought great fighters. He never ducked anybody.
Mayweather, no disrespect at all to him. He's one of my favorite fighters growing up. Love watching him fight. Perhaps the greatest boxing business person of all time. Yeah. Look at actual boxers in the business. But I don't want to see many fighters come out of retirement. He's done everything he can do. He's
trying to stay relevant, or worse, trying to take attention away from Crawford's moment. And, Max is all about fighters getting their shine when they've earned it. Another point Kellerman makes, and this is key, is about the double standard. When Floyd was active, anytime people wanted him to fight a young lion, Whether it was a Canelo who was just coming up or a Manny Pacquiao before the fight actually happened, Floyd always controlled the timing. He fought people when it suited him best, when the leverage was in his corner. That's smart business, no doubt. But now, when the shoe is on the other foot, when Floyd would be the older guy stepping in with a younger killer, suddenly he's open to it. Max basically says, nah, you can't have it both ways. And he's right. If Floyd somehow did step in the ring with Crawford, it wouldn't be viewed as competitive. It would be viewed as reckless. Because there's no way, at this stage, Floyd could keep up with Crawford's speed, his switch hitting, and his ability to adjust mid-fight. Even if Floyd's reflexes are still sharp, the activity gap is too big. Crawford would overwhelm him. And Max points out that if that happened, what would we really gain from it? We'd see an old Floyd get beat up by a prime Crawford. That doesn't add to Crawford's legacy, because everyone would say, well, Floyd was old. And it doesn't add to Floyd's legacy either, because if he somehow won, people would say, well, Crawford wasn't himself that night. Either way, it's lose-lose for boxing. Max also dives into the psychology here. He says Floyd can't stand to not be in the spotlight. Every time boxing moves on, every time a new star rises, whether it was Pacquiao, whether it was Canelo, and now it's Crawford, Floyd finds a way to reinsert himself into the conversation. And while that's understandable for someone who spent decades at the top, Max is saying it's not fair to the sport. Let Crawford have his era. Let him stand on his own without Floyd dangling the what-if scenario over his head. And honestly, I think Max nailed it. Because boxing already has enough problems with fights not happening at the right time, with politics, and with promoters. The last thing it needs is a retired legend muddying the waters by teasing impossible matchups. We should be talking about Crawford versus Jermell Charlo, or Crawford versus Boots Ennis, or even Crawford moving up to 154. That's where the conversation should be. Instead, Floyd's comments drag us into fantasy land, and Max is like, stop distracting from the real fights. Another angle Kellerman hit on is respect. He says Floyd, for all his greatness, should respect Crawford enough to not turn him into a pawn for publicity. Because Crawford has worked too hard to get here. Remember, this is a guy who was overlooked for years, who was stuck under top rank without the big names, and who people said wasn't fighting elite competition. He finally got his shot, delivered a masterclass, and now he's sitting on top of the sport. He deserves clean airspace. He deserves to be celebrated without having to share the stage with someone who isn't even active anymore. And Max doesn't just stop there. He talks about how dangerous this actually could be for Floyd. Because if Floyd really meant what he said, if he really wanted to step back into a real fight, Crawford is not the guy to do it against. Crawford is a finisher. He's mean in that ring. He smells blood, and he goes for it. Max basically says, you don't play boxing. And for a 46-year-old Floyd, stepping in with Crawford wouldn't just risk his legacy, it would risk his health. That's real. We've seen too many legends stay too long and pay the price. Kellerman's passion comes from wanting to protect the sport and the fighters, even if they don't want to protect themselves. And you can tell, when Max is talking, there's a lot of frustration. Because he's seen this story before. He's seen great fighters struggle to walk away. He's seen guys come back for the wrong reasons, money, ego, relevance, and end up tarnishing their legacies. He doesn't want that for Floyd. And he definitely doesn't want Crawford's prime being wasted on a fight that does nothing for him historically. So where does this leave us? Floyd calling out Crawford is headline material, sure. It gets people talking. But when you break it down, it's just noise. Crawford's future is with the active champions. Floyd's past is already cemented. And Max Kellerman going off is really him saying what a lot of us are thinking but maybe didn't want to admit. Floyd needs to let go. Celebrate your career, keep making your exhibition money, but stop interfering with the guys who are carrying the torch now. At the end of the day, this is about eras. Floyd had his era. An era of dominance, of brilliance, of calculated moves that made him the richest fighter ever. Crawford is carving out his era right now. An era of skill, destruction, and proving doubters wrong. They don't need to overlap. They don't need to collide. Let history be what it is. That's Max's message, and I couldn't agree more. So, what do you guys think? Was Floyd serious when he called out Crawford, or was it just talk to keep his name in the mix? And do you agree with Max Kellerman that Floyd needs to stop overshadowing active fighters? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this one has the boxing community split. Some people think Floyd still has enough tricks to make it interesting. Others think Crawford would end it quick. Me? I'm siding with Max on this one. This fight doesn't need to happen, and the sport doesn't need this kind of circus right now. And that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more boxing talk, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next upload. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.